This video is sponsored by Brilliant. My channel is a little bit strange to where I mainly do build projects here, right? I implement the tools that manufacturers send over into the build, and in that way it promotes the tool. But sometimes it's also just really nice to see the tool that has been sent over, and maybe your interest doesn't really align with the build project itself. So I'm implementing this new series on the channel where we do an Unbox Friday, essentially. Every last Friday of the month, I'll do an unboxing session of all the new tools that were sent my way, starting with this one. This is the Makera Carvera Air. It's a desktop CNC machine, one of the first ones I've ever actually taken a look at, and it was super heavy. I nearly broke my back actually getting this thing onto the desktop. It took me a while to actually unpackage it. It's a beginner-friendly CNC machine, so they have an extensive wiki page where you can figure out how to actually operate the machine. It comes with its own software, but you could also use external software if you like that. Their software is quite intuitive though, and I do recommend you try that out first if you're just starting out. But in terms of the package that they sent over, they sent it with all of the accessories. So you have the fourth axis, the laser module, and a bunch of materials for test projects, alongside all of the tools that you need to get the thing up and running, a bunch of bits. In general, just a very generous sponsor package. One of the more difficult parts about getting the machine up and running is that it doesn't work like a 3D printer, right? Where you throw the CAD model into the slicer and it just builds it up and then you just hit print. You actually need to generate all of the tool paths by hand, right? So if you have an outer cutout, you need to make sure that you do that last. And if you want to have some inside bits, then make sure that you do those first. So it is a little bit more manual labor, but it is very easy to figure out. It took me about 2 hours to actually go through the entire wiki, figure out how the software works, and you can still just use any CAD program that you want. The project I did with it was very simple. I just wanted to figure out how to get a machine up and running and how to actually generate the tool paths. So I bought myself a Stream Deck module, and I designed a housing that would allow it to be mounted onto the bottom of a desk, so the cable is nicely out of the way. In this case, I made the front face of it out of a piece of multiplex and CNC'd that on this machine. Actually, fabricating this part took quite a long time, but some people in the comment section pointed out that I might actually have inputted some of the settings incorrectly, because it took about 3 hours to CNC this tiny little component. Shouldn't have taken that long, so I still need to figure out a lot of stuff about CNC machining. It's the first time, but I am really happy that I do have a CNC machine now, so I can figure stuff out. Which brings us to the sponsor of this video, Brilliant. If you've been following my channel for a little while now, you'll know that I really enjoy breaking things down, understanding how they work, and then rebuilding them into something more useful or something different to solve a problem. And this is why Brilliant has been such a good fit for me lately as well. So Brilliant has a huge interactive library of courses ranging from AI, math, science, data analysis, that kind of stuff, but also more practical things like circuits. It really refreshed a lot of the fundamentals I had touched on a couple of years ago, but kind of forgot. What I really appreciate about Brilliant is that it's not a passive way of learning, so you're actually interacting with the courses themselves, and that helps it stick in your memory quite a lot better. And it also makes it a lot more addictive to do. So usually when I started doom scrolling, I replaced that with, doing some Brilliant courses. And now I'm really addicted to actually learning stuff. So that's really awesome. You can start learning for free on Brilliant by heading over to brilliant.org/FLATLANDER'S or scanning the QR code on screen. Brilliant is also giving our viewers 20% off an annual premium subscription, which gives you unlimited daily access to everything Brilliant has to offer. So definitely check them out. I left some links in the description down below. So this next tool is actually something I'm quite familiar with and have integrated into my process quite a lot, and it's a 3D scanner. This one's from Revopoint. Came really neatly packaged in this case of sorts and had a certificate with it, which means it's calibrated and ready to be used as a 3D scanner. Of course, it also comes with this glass calibration board. You'll have to calibrate it once you get it out of the packaging, and then after that you can start using it. Now this is actually MetroY, which is a newly released 3D scanner from Revopoint, and I was actually quite surprised by the design. It looks really cool. In terms of the software though, I do think it's a little less efficient than, for example, 3D scanners from Creality, which are super fast, so you can really quickly scan something. It is a little bit more intuitive, I believe, but yeah, just with my Ryzen 9 processor, it was still laggy and it still took quite a while to actually 3D scan the object. Now it has a couple different scanning modes, cross lines, parallel lines, and a single line scanning mode. The single line is super useful if you have very deep grooves in an object, for example, and you need to scan within that. If you do that with the cross laser line pattern, it doesn't really work too well. But the 3D scanner actually came out of it was very beautiful and very detailed after doing some of the processing. And I could just import that into the CAD software just like a normal 3D model, and then model around it. I sometimes also use plasticine, like clay, to model out a grip, for example, and then 3D scan that, import that into the CAD, so that we have an accurate reference of what we want to make the grip feel like. So I haven't done a project with the 3D scanner yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a very interesting one. I did do a little mini project with this drill, as I want to create some magnetic bit storage on it. For that project, I used a 3D printer, and that brings us to the next product, which is the Prusa CORE One. And this one actually came with some sweets in the packaging, which is really nice. And I really enjoyed the unboxing experience. It's very smart how they package this thing. Something that people don't really think about when, you unpackage something is that somebody actually has to design this, right? Now, I've personally never worked with Prusa before, but I hear that their machines are really quite good. And I was quite surprised that a lot of the components on this machine are 3D printed, which is really neat because I often like to use 3D printers for more functional projects to showcase that it's not just, a tool to create toys and then chuck in the garbage. It's actually very useful for functional parts. So it's nice to see that Prusa is implementing this into their own workflow as well. So far, my experience with the 3D printer has been really quite good, and I get the distinct sensation that there's quite a lot of passion behind the design of this 3D printer. There's some really interesting and unique features which initially you wouldn't really think about, but make it a little bit better than the other 3D printers I've tried. Whereas some companies, we need an FDM printer, Core XYZ, just do the standard stuff. I see that Prusa's kind of trying stuff to push those limits a little bit. So that's pretty neat. I really appreciate this machine. I haven't done the full video on it just yet. That one is still in production. But as soon as everything is released, I'll also link them down below in the description box. So this next thing we're checking out kind of completes the entire fabrication tool list that I have in my head at least. So we have a CNC machine, a 3D printer, a 3D scanner, and now a laser cutter. This is the Ikier K40 Max. It's a really awesome laser cutter that has a work area of 80 by 85 centimeters, but it's packaged really quite small because it's designed really nicely. Now the K40 Max comes with a 48 watt diode laser module, but you can switch between 24 and 48 watt. This means that if you want to do some finer engravings, then you can switch it to 24. If you want to do some cutting, you can switch it to 48. Something I really appreciate about this machine is that it comes with this little external touchscreen, and you can access all of these settings via this touchscreen. So I turned the fire detection system off when I was cutting stuff. But what's really nice about this thing being external is that if you would build your own enclosure, you could probably mount this on the outside so you could still access all of the settings. And this is also one of the first machines that has an autofocus which works with a depth sensor instead of a little rod. And that's really neat. I really appreciate that. It doesn't really touch the work surface at all. In terms of the build quality, it's also really nice. So pretty much everything is anodized metal and just feels very solid. So for the project, I wanted to create a lounge area with a nice light on the ceiling as I had just moved into this new studio. I let this machine cut through all of the multiplex, which was 12mm thick. It did a pretty decent job, and after sanding you would only see a little bit of the charring left, which I quite enjoyed. So eventually that light came out looking really quite good. It was hanging in the living room for a little bit, but I've had to take it down because I needed to mount like a ceiling veil system and some acoustic panels. So in general, I really appreciate this batch of tools. As I said, it's very comprehensive in the sense that you have a CNC machine, 3D scanner, 3D printer, and a laser cutter. Just having all of these combined, there's so much possibilities of stuff that you can fabricate with it. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it gave you some inspiration for maybe some tools you might want to pick up on Black Friday. There's some sales going on, and in general, I hope you have a great week.